it's not your grandfather who was in the SS that makes you a Nazi.
He's under investigation because he hasn't, you ready for this? He hasn't purchased his television watching license.
We proclaim in America to look at good old-fashioned values, family, prosperity, all that stuff. Good, hard work gets real result, the American dream, all that stuff. You don't find it so much in America anymore. I mean, the Constitution, to me, is a sacred document. All four of these documents are sacred in the National Archives.
For those of you who might not know, Orlando Owen has basically been a rebel, a mystic, master of masculine transformation. And for over 35 years, Orlando Owen has been guiding men through the minefields of modern life, exposing the illusions of culture, confronting the lies of politics, and awakening men to a deeper metaphysical truth. Now, tonight, this is not going to be about conspiracy theories and kind of spiritual fluff. This is all about reclaiming your sovereignty, your instincts, and your inner compass in a world that's lost its way. All right. Well, with all of that said, let's bring in our guest, Orlando Owen. Well, Orlando, I got to tell you, I checked out some of your YouTube videos, and unfortunately, I don't speak German. So
yeah, that's an older channel, and we have some in English, but not as many, and the channel is smaller. Unfortunately, we haven't fully repatriated the business into the US of A. And for the last 18 years, I've been working a lot with German people, but that was because my parents. I'm sort of like bilingual. I grew up on both sides of the drink, and I was kind of like similar to an army brat. I was more like an intelligence brat. So I had to follow my dad wherever. A lot of it was Rhine-Main Air Base, Wiesbaden, those things. And my parents, when I was 12, they made a grave mistake, in my opinion, and moved permanently to Germany. And that was like the worst decade of my life. But I learned how to speak it. And it was funny. I was invited, this is about 18 years ago, I was invited, relatively well-known American masculinity coach, was invited to speak in front of 800 people in Munich, and he said, I don't want to fly, I don't want to do it. You want to fill that slot? You just happen to be there. And I said, yeah, I'm here basically burying my parents, so no, not fun. But it was my first public speaking ever, and it was 800 people, and said, this is all pickup artists, expect a hostile audience. And I said, okay, I'm the anti-pickup artist. Let's take it from there. And they were fine with that. So that's how I got started. And that's why you see a lot more YouTube videos. We have like 600 YouTube videos in Germany, but it's really an American business. I'm an American. I hold no other passports. I hold no other loyalties. It's just what it is. But if you pick up a little bit of a German accent, I do the same thing in German. I have a little American accent, so it's kind of like both ways.
That's good.
Anyway, it's really great to be here with you.
And I appreciate it. It really
looks like we're kindred spirits.
So. I think so. I think we have a lot of things that we can talk about, for probably both on the show and off the show. We could probably get some really good talk going on.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I have a feeling, yeah.
Just for reference, I understand where you're coming from as far as your first speaking engagement being something to a large audience. My first real public speaking was to a group of 400 lumberjacks.
There you go. And that's more scary because those are actually real men.
Yeah,
he's a lumberjack and he's all right, but
exactly. And the real funny thing is the host, before he went out onto the stage, he leans over, he whispers to me, he goes, "You don't wear lace on your underwear, do you?" And I was like,
yeah, that's that. Remember Monty Python? He's a lumberjack and he's all right.
Exactly.
So, that's You don't squat when you pay, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
One of those super masculine things, like all red and black plaid jackets, not plaid,
plaid,
flannel shirts.
Yeah.
So I get it. Yeah, those can be a bit intimidating because those are real men.
They are, and you know what? I was terrified. I got up there, I just looked out at the and just these stone faces.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, these guys had hands that just one of their hands is big as my face.
I know they have arms like other people have legs. I know, it's just unbelievable. So yeah.
For listeners who really don't know about your work and what you do, how would you describe how you came to becoming a masculinity coach, getting into the politics, culture, and especially the metaphysics?
Right. That's really fun. Well, first of all, I worked a lot with women in the 80s and 90s. Did a lot of sexual therapy with them, unlicensed, but it was legit, completely legit. And I learned so much about working with hundreds of women that eventually guys came up to me and said, "Hey, you do all that stuff. You're sort of like the doctor. teach me. And I'm like, teach you what? I don't work with guys that way. I'm sorry. I love you, brother, but not that way. And they said, no, what you learn with women. I mean, what can we learn? You know this stuff. And I'm like, I don't know that stuff, but okay, what's your question? And so that's how it started. You know, if I look at, I'm trying to write a book, and I was like, one of the things in the foreword would be, if I see guys give up or give away their power, making an ass out of themselves, making a fool of themselves, being kind of cringeworthy, weak. And I said, look, every time I see a guy just being a wuss bag with women and then just kind of totally like, oh, anything you want, honey. I'm like, I go, it's like, I go cringe. And that cringe is so, I feel I'm so ashamed for you to do that. That reflects on all men. And then women might think that I'm like that. So, I mean, it's not really rational what I'm saying here, but it's kind of how it feels. And I'm like,
where you're coming from.
Any brother I can spare that kind of humiliation, and by extension more men, that's a good thing. So I'm looking at it and it's like, I just can't watch these people do this. I mean, somebody please stop them, kill them, anything. You just wake the F up, please, and snap out of your trance. So, I mean, it's like, I see them in the pussy, and you're in the pussy trance. Well, I may be pussy whipped, but at least I have a pussy to be whipped by. And I'm, you're really an embarrassing to manhood, to mankind. And let me help you out with that, because I used to actually do some of that too. Not as bad as you, but bad enough to not want to do it. And so that's where this came from. I call this PCM, politics, culture, metaphysics. It's politics is downstream from culture, and metaphysics to me involves, yes, religion and such, but it also goes into metaphysics such as magic or hermeticism, or the more esoteric aspects, I guess, of that. And I'm looking at, there is a connection between the three. And they all inform each other. They all kind of like spill over into each other. You really can't look at politics as an isolated phenomenon if you don't look also at the culture. And I mean, I hate Nazis, but I'm a grammar Nazi. I love the English language, and I love it to be spoken properly, eruditely, eloquently. So when it's somebody kind of like, yeah, where you at? I'm like, okay. I'm really like, the punctuation, grammar, these things. And why do you care? I said, I care about it because it's the glue that binds together. Let's see, self-identify as an American, Merc with an M. We still share a common language, and who gave you the right to butcher that beautiful English language?
That's right. I agree.
And it's spoken. It's by far the most spoken language on earth. If you treat your language, from your diction, your pronunciation, to everything, the choice of your words, colloquialisms. I hate that kind of text speak.
Yeah, the text.
Or girls do this all the time. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, can't you speak proper English? But then they say, oh, I can't. AI does wonders. What you just told me is you know how to use ChatGPT, but I digress. The point is, its language is, I mean, if you look at good poetry, good literature, good art, anything of value, with an intrinsic value that actually shines, that's not just, Jackson Pollock throwing paint against the canvas or whatever. Nothing against Jackson Pollock, but you need to take back the culture. We need to take back our language and treat it with a certain amount of respect. You're actually not supposed to take the flag, kind of wrap your bathing suit out of it. Or,
exactly.
When the flag touches the ground, it's desecrated,
That's right.
And so if you do the same thing to your language, it's a beautiful language. Whether it's an English accent or Irish brogue or a Scottish accent or New Zealand or any of that stuff. American is what we speak, but American. So that's culture. Own your culture. And like you have someone like who just got beaten by his wife.
You saw that, right?
Yeah, it didn't really happen. It was just playful. No, he got beaten. The biggest gym chain in France now uses it. Did you get beat by your wife? You might want to join a gym. So if he says, there is no such thing as a French culture, I'm like, really? Have you looked at the Louvre? Have you looked at Notre Dame? Have you looked at, French culture of 2,000 years, or whether it's Italian, or whether it's German, English, Spanish, you name it, right?
Of course, yeah. European culture is
European culture. And I mean, okay, America, we don't have that much culture because we're only 250 years old, but actually it goes back much farther. But the thing is, this is all the glue that keeps everything together. If you treat it with disrespect, you're really disrespecting yourself. You're disrespecting the flag. You're disrespecting the country, the culture we live in. And so politics is kind of like a result of that. Of course you get woke culture if there's cultural Marxists about. Of course. If everybody says, well, religion is BS, and whatever, and atheism, all that kind of stuff. You're treating 2,000 years of, where do you think all that culture comes from? Michelangelo painting the Sistine Chapel, where do you think that comes from? These are artists that really learned the craft and that culture. Or look at, whether it's Bach or Mozart or Beethoven or Dostoevsky, these are all great, okay, that's the writer, but it's all, really accomplished work of culture, of art, of literature, of deep thinking, of philosophy, of religion, whatever it is. It all is connected. If you take these things apart and you replace it with cultural Marxism, or if you ever look at London, the Shard and all these almost diabolical looking buildings, I'm like, whatever happened to that? London used to be my favorite city in Europe. And now it's like, you can't even see St. Paul's Cathedral because it's dwarfed by 5 times taller buildings. You need to own your culture, and you need to really respect what your forebears, your forefathers have built. Look at the 3%. When the British, 1776 through 81, when they came, there was only 3% that actually picked up arms and actually fought. Mm-hmm. And the rest just didn't care or immigrated to Canada, which is probably why Canada is so liberal. The loyalists went there. So the point is, you're losing all that stuff that makes us great, that the glue that holds everything together, that what we're swimming in. Like a fish swims in water. Like if you could tell a fish, hey, you're wet, and the fish, what are you talking about? There's nothing else. You're swimming in that medium. We're all swimming in this culture. We're swimming in politics, and we're swimming in metaphysics. Everything we do is either religiously inspired or some such thing. Treat it with respect, and that gives you power. If you take responsibility for your culture, any kind of responsibility is basically a form of taking your power back, and you should take that power back. And then women like a man that's maybe even a little bit older, a little bit well-traveled, well-read, all that. I mean, yes, some biatches don't care, but some women, even like the slightly better ones, actually respond to that. Oh my God, you know so much. Oh, you've traveled all that. Nah, I'm just another cat walking through life. But this, oh no, I've never met anyone. I'm like, you're setting the bar real low. But if I'm exemplifying that kind of culture, then good night, Irene. But that's kind of how I look at this whole thing.
Well, if I could just pivot back to the cultural aspect that you were talking about, and talking about Europe and talking about the culture of Europe and how. Right. Now Europe is not what it used to be. Obviously, I mean, this migration that's been taking place ever since the European Union came into power, yes, has totally decimated European culture
completely.
And your experience is living in Europe. You've seen it firsthand.
Not a pretty picture. I've seen it firsthand. I've seen it in Germany. I've seen it in Italy. I've seen it when I went to London. The first time I went to London, I was 10. I saw it like 10 years ago, and I was shocked. And it's people say, "Oh, that was the golden age of London."
I don't think that was the golden age of London.
No, but I mean, it's the mass migration, and while it's hurting us too, we probably have 30, 40, 50, 60 million illegals in this country at this point. I don't know. It's not doing as much damage on the cultural level. It's doing damage, but maybe not on the cultural level. But in Europe, it completely does. These are people that come for the benefits, for the free healthcare, all that stuff, for the free lunch, really, basically. Yeah. And then when they realize, oh well, actually, the weather is bad. The people are not that friendly. I didn't sign up for this. That's when they turn hostile and actually turn on each other and turn on the German population. The German population is some of the weakest, cringeworthy MFs that you'll ever meet. I mean, talk about self-loathing. I mean, it's cringe. And you see, like for instance, why is Germany going down with a Nord Stream pipeline, right? There was Biden and this German that said, well, if Russia attacks, then we'll end the pipeline. And then they ask, trust me, it will happen, Biden. And then you see the little Olaf Scholz, the chancellor. Mm-hmm. And so how do you feel about it? Oh, it's okay. We do everything together, yeah? Yeah, we do everything together. Whatever the big brother in the USA says, we do this too, yeah? And now they're trying to sanction the pipeline. I mean, it's almost like every European government at this point, particularly the big three, France, Germany, and England, has Stürmer, as I call them, because the Nazi colors are kind of shown. If you look at those, I mean, they're acting as if they were agents of a foreign power with one mission: search and destroy and sabotage the country and bring it to its knees. That's true for Germany, France, and England, and probably to a lesser extent to the other countries. That whole EU, and I don't want to get too far out in the weeds here, but do your research, not you, but if you're interested, and try to see, and it's well covered and well hidden in the internet, but it dates, let me just put it this way, it dates back to a certain political system that happened in the 1930s and 40s in Germany. I'll leave it at that. And Martin Bormann was one of the founders of the EU. That's when they figured, well, today we own Germany, tomorrow the world. How that didn't work out so well. Okay, let's put a third step in there. Like, today we own Germany, tomorrow we own Europe, and then we'll take the world over. It's a complete fascist system that I've never seen the likes of. And yes, you get all the wokeism and George Soros and all that kind of wonderful stuff that it's horrible. They even in Germany, that new Chancellor Merz, he even put in the Constitution with some kind of trick, like we do it when we vote at 3 o'clock in the morning in the Senate.
Yeah, right.
And nobody reads a 1,200-page, thing. Everything has to now. It's now a constitutional issue in Germany, that climate change and everything. So the minute you even mention anything against that, you're already like in violation of enough laws to land you in prison for a long time. Same in Britain and same in France. That culture has been completely destroyed, and people question, and these Germans are so weak, and to a lesser extent the other Europeans, but the Germans in particular, it's almost like institutionalized, weaponized Stockholm syndrome. Well, that's if the government says this is so, and if you do this, yeah, grow a pair, please. Well, it's like Lenin, I think, said, if the Germans want to storm a train platform, they first buy a ticket. They get permission from the government to stage a revolution, well within their boundaries. And this is just something where I'm like, look, Europeans are so, Americans, if you pull that same crap in America, people, we have a lot of guns. And, Jefferson said those guns aren't just there for hunting. And not even just there for self-defense. They're actually there because if the government gets out of control, well, don't want to get you into trouble here in your show.
No, you're not. The Second Amendment was there for a reason. That's to keep the tyrants.
To keep the tyrants and to protect the first. And, in Europe, you don't have freedom of speech. You have freedom of opinion. That means you're allowed to think those thoughts. Don't ever speak them, right? So fine distinction, but all important.
Yeah, but the way
these people,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but the way things are going right now in Europe, even thinking, the thought police are
the thought police enforce.
Exactly, and I was speaking to another gentleman a few days ago. We were talking about wrongthink.
Wrongthink. There you go.
Yeah, you think
good old George Orwell.
Yeah, exactly. 1984. You think the wrong thing, and they're going to come knocking on your door.
They toss your house. They come at 6 a.m. What they did to Roger Stone, or what they did to Scott Ritter. They come to your house at 6 a.m. It's the only thing missing is that they have a UH-60 hovering above your house, and then the Marines are like rappelling off that, right? Or the SWAT team, whatever.
I saw something on social media the other day. A guy in London who was traveling abroad. He was here in the States for a little while, and he when he got back home, he had a notice in the mail from the government saying that he's under investigation because he hasn't. You ready for this? He hasn't purchased his television watching license.
Watching license.
Yes.
This was in Britain.
Yes, they need a license now to watch TV. You believe that?
Okay, I didn't know about that. What I do know about Britain with the BBC, which is state, TV, or state propaganda TV. It's like the old Pravda and TASS in the Soviet Union and
NPR.
In Germany, you pay, I think it's something like €25 a month. Even if you don't even own a TV, you have to pay that when I had the little house in Germany. And a friend of mine, this guy came by and he said, well, I'm here to collect this money. And I'm just like, as if. I don't pay that. I don't have a computer. You don't have a computer? I said, no, I don't have a computer. Which, of course, I have a computer. And this friend of mine had given me this. It's a pepper mill made from wood. It looks like a baseball bat, but it's really a pepper mill. It wasn't an actual baseball bat. I said, let's take this conversation, to another level. If you ever come back, I will kill you. I will beat you over the head with this thing. I will kill your family. I will kill your dog. I will kill your cat and everything you love. Wow. Now, what were you here for again? And the guy was like, He ran. He literally friggin' ran. I swear to God, this happened. Only in Germany. In America, it would have been a different story. There would have been 5 big sheriffs, and I would have been on the floor with a jackboot on my neck.
Yeah,
Never had that happen to me. But in Germany, this guy just ran. He never showed up again. But anyone else, they throw in prison for this. I know people who have told, stop paying this stuff. You're paying $25 a month for your own indoctrination. What's wrong with this picture? Only in Germany, in Britain, wherever, the UK. But these people just will not stand up.
No.
They just won't. They just, nothing we can do. And so this disempowerment, then you get into the cultural thing. You get into emotional liberation. It's all connected. But these people just don't grow a spine. They don't grow balls. I don't know what is wrong with them.
And then you think that the modern left here in America wants to do that here, and they want that, and I think
they love that.
We kind of got a reprieve, I think, because with the re-election of Donald Trump. I don't know if you saw yesterday. It came out that basically there was a Politburo that was running the country and using the auto pen to sign everything.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. See, I didn't really follow that, how that auto pen happened, and apparently it was already a thing under Truman, but it must have been a different type of tech. But the auto pen, I mean, that's not.
It's been around for a while. It's used by many presidents to sign. It's legal to use as long as the party involved is aware of it. And apparently, Joe Biden didn't even know.
Are you implying that he had some kind of form of dementia or something? I mean, that's a conspiracy. Come on, that's Russian propaganda.
Well, no, not anymore now, because now they're all coming out and saying it. Now it's okay.
Now it's okay. Now it was okay. Yeah, back then they
just like when COVID came around, you couldn't talk about the COVID shot.
Absolutely not. No,
hot shot and all that stuff.
Right.
Banned and kicked off of social media, and all that stuff. But now it's okay. Now you can talk about it and you won't get in trouble. Yet. Yeah.
Not yet. No, I'm not sure exactly where we stand with some of that. If we're looking at the, certain issues that, Palestine universities, I mean, yes, they are woke, like the redactor was talking about. Yes, Harvard is a woke disaster, but we also, the Constitution kind of matters. I mean, to me, it's as sacred almost as the Bible. So, I mean, as an American, we live and die live and die by the Constitution. And by the way, that's one of the hills I'm willing to die on, is the Constitution. To me is untouchable.
Yeah, I had a question for you that later on, though. I was going to ask you.
I know. That's I kind of jumped the gun on that, but yeah, I mean, this is important. I mean, the Constitution to me is a sacred document. All 4 of these documents are sacred in the National Archives. If we don't have the Constitution, if we don't have rights protected, particularly starting with the First, the Second, the Fourth Amendment, to name the very most immediate important 3 ones, we have really nothing. And it's everybody talks about, like for instance, you was talking the rules-based international order. And said, no, there needs to be the law-based international order. Equal protection of the law. Everyone is equal. Okay, I'm not saying that everyone is truly equal, like that all men have been created equal. Created equal, yes. Are they equal? No, some more than others, but we do need to have equal protection.
I'll come out and say it for you. There are some people who are just stupid.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we're allowed to say that. Yeah, is that politically correct? I don't care. But is it truth? Absolutely, it's the truth. And there's some stupid MFs that just go, please, wake up. Wake up, Neo. The Matrix has you. People really need to just kind of understand that it's your liberty. It's life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. That's at stake here. They're about to take that away. They really want to do that. And I don't really think Trump can stop this. As a matter of fact, I'm sometimes a little bit, when it comes to free speech and certain things I'm like, I didn't quite sign up for that. Like, to me, emotional liberation and all that stuff it's sovereignty. And sovereignty is very little, it's more than independence. It's more than, liberty is higher than freedom. Like, every form of liberty is a form of freedom, but not every freedom is also liberty. Liberty is like an order of magnitude more powerful to me. So if you don't have that, if you don't defend that with your life, that's the hills I'm willing to die on, is life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, equal protection of the law, and the freedom to express all those things that, if you can't, even like the LCLU, the LCLU tower, that one, you remember, I think it was in the 70s, Skokie, Illinois, was a famous case. I think it went before the Supreme Court, if I'm not completely mistaken. In Skokie, Illinois, there was a lot of Nazis. And they were like, card carrying, goose stepping, the whole, mustache man kind of thing. of all people, who defended them, their right to assemble, the right to free speech? The ACLU. Well, why? Most of these guys were actually, like all the big honchos were actually Jewish at the ACLU, at least at the time. Why would they say, well, the Nazis have a right to free speech? Well, I may hate you, I may hate what you have to say, I may hate everything about you, but God, I'm willing to die for your right to do it. And to me, that's classic. That's as American as it gets. And back to sovereignty, which is what I'm trying. Emotional liberation is basically personal sovereignty. But why was the American Revolution so different from all the others? What happened back then, from the king, in the old days, the sovereign, so like a title, was the king. It was always a king, the monarch. In America, what happened, what the founding fathers did in their infinite wisdom, was that they said, we're now transferring the sovereignty of the king, who's, he's above the people, but he's under God. And we're now taking that away from the king, and we're giving it to, well, we the people. Right? And that's that is the ultimate revolutionary act to me. I mean, it doesn't get more revolutionary. I mean, what a concept. We're transferring, this is like habeas corpus. This is like the Magna Carta. We've taken the sovereignty away from the king. And by the way, my wife just became, about a year ago, she became a U.S. citizen. Finally, after years, thank you. And she was there with her little flag, and she's actually starting to, I got really choked up about that. And I was like, you're an American now. And when they do the whole thing, and then, Pledge of Allegiance and all that stuff, and you're an American now. But what does it actually mean to be an American? It's not just something that, most of us were born in America, so we don't care, we take it for granted, right? It's nothing. But if you've actually seen that, and one of the questions in there, by the way, is, or one of the things you have to do or say, I forget exactly what it is, but you basically have to swear off any foreign titles, potentates, nobility titles. You can't call yourself a baron or
correct,
a lord or something. We don't have that. That's not Constitution. That's not American. That's what the old country does. They still have it in some of them. And so to transfer sovereignty, and to actually, that's the ultimate act of empowerment. You're now only responsible to, well, God and country and your people. And you're no longer responsible, or you don't owe any allegiance to a monarch, a king, a dictator, whatever. That's as American as apple pie and Chevrolet. And, well, Chevrolet was actually Canadian, but okay, fine. Yeah, he's from Quebec. But Mr. Chevrolet sounds kind of French. Most even constitutional lawyers fully, well, they know this, but do they actually live it, or do they actually practice it? This is what America, it's a sovereign country, and with sovereign citizens. And if you look at Europeans, they're not sovereign. First of all, they yielded a bigger institution called the EU. And you can tell. I mean, I walked through, when I first went to Germany, this is 2007 when my dad died. That's the only reason I even traveled there. So I was there for a few months handling the affairs. That's when that event happened that I was invited in. And I had all kinds of Americans walked down the street with me. And they all said, they looked at the people and they were like, something is off. And I said, okay, you're an American. I've been here, some may not see as clear, but you just fresh off the boat in Germany. And what do you see? What do you pick up? Some people said, a defeated people. They're all kind of like, they're walking like this, but they're basically walking with their heads hung low, and then they all they feel like subjects. Like, in Germany there's a word for it, Untertan, which means the underling. In a state hierarchy level, you're subject. There's a king, a queen, and there's a subject. And you're just one of the minions. You're nothing. And the best you can ever do is pay your dues to the king. And then move down and then walk backwards, out of the audience, whatever it is. This is what Europe's like, and in Germany in particular. Sure, there's that whole World War II guilt, and then they turn around and sell tanks with German cat names and iron crosses on them to the Ukrainians, who are card-carrying, well, can I say that? Nazis.
Yes, Nazis.
Azov Battalion, all that kind of. These guys don't even make it. I mean, if you understand who Stepan Bandera was, he killed, murdered, the most bestial ways, together with the SS and, Waffen-SS and so forth, murdered Poles, Ukrainians, Jews, I mean, you name it. They just killed them in the most bestial ways, unspeakable ways. Yet that's their patron saint. So why are we supporting these people? Why is Germany still supporting these people? On one hand, well, we're so guilty, but we want to be Nazis again. We want to be... And now all of a sudden there's like a drive. We just talked about this earlier. People are starting to come, the masculine. Well, I want to feel like a man, and I want to sign up to the German army, which basically doesn't exist anymore. They said, well, if you want to join real military, like, go to the Marines. That's real men. That's the real deal, yeah? Even the Army, like, you're in the Army now? No, you're in the Marines now. I went through 90 days of that training, and long story and another life, and PCM and so forth, that was identical to the Marine Corps training. I've done those 90 days. It's friggin' hell. But that's if you want to be a man, do that. But then at least stand for something like America. You standing for a system that was in power 80 years ago? Really? You want to go down that route? And if you understand the German military, it's heavily infected by mustache man, 1930s ideology. Really? Oh yeah, very strongly. I mean, they can't fight their way out of paperback. Like in England, same thing. It's like, it was Larry Johnson, I think, or somebody said, Wembley Stadium has 100,000 seats. The British Army would comfortably fit into that stadium with about 30,000 seats to spare.
Really? Wow.
They have more admirals than they have ships, they have more horses than they have tanks. And Germany's like 1 order of magnitude more cringe.
Well, that's why they'll depend on the United States for their defense.
That's what they're doing. They're like little kids. I mean, it's like, Dad, I got bullied. And then Dad says, well, I want to talk to, the bully. And then you're like, see, what are you going to do? Screw you. That's what, like little chihuahuas. Europe.
My dad could beat up.
It's like that. They're just hiding like little chihuahuas, little ankle biters. Well, and then Russia turns around and says, America, help us. And I'm like, do you really want to provoke the Russians? You understand what the Russians can do if they want to? I don't think you want to mess with these people. Putin may be a very balanced and, kind of Libra. He's Libra, so he's not warlike. He's very even-tempered, and unlike Medvedev. You want to kill Putin? You want to try it? You want to take on Medvedev? Okay, be my guest. Then we're talking nuclear war in 3 days. Great. Let's keep Putin in power, please. Or we're all going to die. Yeah.
Where do you think this whole mess is going to go with Ukraine and Russia?
Now, we think we were still in 1991 military or World War II or whatever, but if Trump thinks honestly, I voted for the guy. I voted for him 3 times, although with different the last time was kind of like, I'm like drinking cod liver oil. I'm voting for him just to get these other people out, but I'm cautiously optimistic. Now I'm like less so optimistic. I'd still vote for that man. I would still vote. With all the criticism of the man, I would still vote for him. I guess, especially if I look at the other guys, but he has no leverage. Like he told Zelensky, you have no cards. And then you're playing cards. I'm not playing. No, you have no cards. Okay? Not even up your sleeve. Mm-hmm. And truth be told, I mean, I think Trump's getting Larry Johnson is one of my favorite people. Scott Ritter, they all said he's getting the mushroom treatment. You know what that means. Like he's kept in the dark and being fed poop. And so I don't think he's either very poorly informed or he is just not a very deep thinker. I even did a little video on that. Is Trump really a deep thinker? And again, I'm not just saying he is bad or some orange man bad. I'm not coming from that angle. I'm just like, does he really think things through? If the Russians weren't so patient, the Russians are winning this thing hands down. Well, they wanted 3 days to Kiev. Well, that was Mark Milley who came up with it. The Russians never said that, not even Medvedev. And the Russians were ill-prepared at that time. They figured, well, we're just going to give them a good scare. Then we'll just kind of like have the sign Minsk 2, and it'll be fine. That didn't happen. At this point, the Russians have no longer like 400,000 people. And by the way, if Trump says it's not his war, he's actually wrong because, well, I gave him javelins and not blankets like Obama. Anyway, so the Russians had shrunk to 1/3 of its power even since the collapse of the Soviet Union. They were no threat, and he's doing all these maneuvers. And all. No, this is Trump's war. This is not Biden's war. This is Trump's war. It's Obama's war. It's Biden's war. It's Trump's war. And he could have just walked away. Why didn't he? Well, I guess he has the Lindsey Grahams of this world and all these people who want the military. I'm a great fan of Eisenhower. And in 1961, he had the famous speech. He really was going to call it the military-industrial congressional complex, but he said military-industrial. So this is, I think, you're looking at BlackRock, you look at the military-industrial, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Boeing. Who really did it? Well, all of the above. They all got a stake in this. The neocons, the neolibs, the Europeans, they all have their stake. BlackRock. They wanted to break down, Russia. Mm-hmm. Like it was happening under Yeltsin. And I'm no fan of communism or the Soviet Union by any stretch. I mean, not at all. Okay, I'm not coming from that. So Putin is a Christian. And so, that's just, no, you understand Russia. My favorite form of Christianity is actually Eastern Orthodoxy because it doesn't have original sin. It has a lot of much more nuanced stuff. They don't like the papacy, they don't like Catholicism. They probably dislike that more than they even like any other form of religion. But Putin is he may be ex-KGB, so what? But he's also a deeply religious man. This guy's not faking this. This guy really does not want civilian casualties. And I believe that. And it's, you're just buying the Kool-Aid. No, I study Russia very intensely and the whole history. I'm not an expert in history, but I'm a buff. So I'm really interested in it. That's what I mean by that. Not necessarily by accomplishment, but by inclination. The Russians are very deep thinkers. They're chess masters. They think in centuries. The Chinese think in millennia, but we think in election periods.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
So it's unfortunately, he's a judo master, and the Ukraine will lose this war. There's no doubt in my mind. But so, it's taken them many years. Well, it's the Russian warfare is they're attrition. They're not trying to strive for territory. He doesn't want all of the Ukraine. He wants the 4 oblasts that are Russian, ethnic Russians, and maybe another few more. He wants Kherson, he wants, maybe he'll take Odessa, he may, but the thing is, there's no way to stop the Russians. The sanctions obviously aren't working. They hurt Europe 10 times more than they ever hurt the Russians. The Russian economy is not in tatters. Sorry, Ursula von der Leyen. It's not. The Russian economy is, Germany used to be number 4. After America, China, and India. Now it's number 8. Guess who's number 4? Russia. Yeah, the ruble is rubble. Don't believe all that hype. It's not true. Do your research. And if you really want to get good research, you need to look no farther than the former Fox guy, Judge Napolitano, for instance. He's got some of the better guests on there. A lot of ex-Army, a lot of ex-CIA people, a lot of really good deep thinkers. And Russia's got this. So if Trump thinks he can roll in there, I'm going to end this phone call in 24 hours. How's that come along, Mr. Trump? Now it's 100 days into it or more, 3-4 months. And he realizes there's no leverage. He can't force the Russians, not with sanctions, not with military threat. We're looking at the single most modern, most powerful, most capable, most battle-hardened military on the planet, bar none. And they also have nukes, they have hypersonic. And for Trump to say, well, they stole that. Okay, they stole it under Obama. Okay, if you steal information, is that information gone? They stole it from us, so now they have it and we don't have it anymore? Did you think this through, Donald? Just saying. So, you know where I'm going. It's not true. And even the Houthi. I mean, I don't like that he's killing people. I don't like it all. You flew 950 sorties into the Houthi. You didn't defeat them, but you killed a lot of civilians, but no military targets. These are 14th century people in robes and, curved swords, curved knives, and yet they have hypersonic missiles, which we don't have, and we can't shoot down. So who do you think is going to win? How do you think this is going to end? It's going to end on the battlefield with a devastating collapse of the Ukrainian system. The Russians do not want to have a guerrilla war, and they're certainly not interested in taking over Western Europe. That's just fear-mongering. The Russians have he does not want to reinstate the Soviet Union because he hates communism as much as we do. Mm-hmm. He does not want the Tsarist Empire because that didn't end so well. He just wants Russia to be prosperous and say, you're just a Putin stooge. No, I just study the man. I look at what he's done, how he's brought back a country that was completely destroyed under Boris Yeltsin and 80 years of communism and brought it back from the brink, dealt with the oligarchs, got the economy going, and suddenly, if you go to Moscow or St. Petersburg, they're economically 3 to 4 times better off than they were just a decade ago, let alone 2 or 3. Which the stores are on stock. It's unbelievable. I haven't been there, but I know people who have. And people that know what they're looking for or what they're looking at. And they all say, and I met Larry Johnson. He said, that guy shook and said, God, I can't believe I'm shaking your hand, Larry, because that hand just shook Lavrov's hand, whom I actually admire as an elder statesman. Diplomacy is a really good thing. Again, I'm not a peacenik. I'm not a pacifist. No, I believe in, you want to kill me, I'll kill you. End of story. And I have, and I will. But that's not what this is about. The Russians would rather not do this. You're a poison steward, you're just glorified. No, I'm just looking at the facts. Please look at them objectively. check your prejudices at the door and just look at what they're doing. They're deeply spiritual Christian people of a very deep form of Christianity that I really like their culture. They don't like the wokeness. Oh, he's incarcerating all the gay people. No, he's not. Oh, well, you can't see. He's a tyrant. Look at the facts. None of this is true. We're probably looking at much greater issues with free speech and so forth and personal expression and assembly than you're looking at in Russia and Europe. Now, that's fascism. Europe is turning fascist real quick. And if you're not careful, if you don't guard the Constitution, which is the hill I'm willing to die on, among a couple others, then we may go the same way. People used to tell me I was private military. I was not real military. So when people say, thank you for your service, I said, sorry, I can't accept it because I was a door kicker for Raytheon, Lockheed Martin. So that's what we did. There's nothing to be proud about, nothing to be proud of. It sucked. It was horrible. And I wish I'd never done it. So that said, we proclaim in America to look at good old-fashioned values, family, prosperity, all that stuff. Good, hard work gets real result, the American dream. All that stuff, you don't find it so much in America anymore, thanks to decades of, whatever, deep state. But you do find that in Russia. And people say, yeah, you're just making that up. No. I know enough people whose judgment I really trust that can make a case, argued eruditely and eloquently, that give me the facts and said, look at this, look at that, and look at the statistics, look at the figures. The data don't lie. So I'm saying people don't look at Russia objectively, and they should. As a matter of fact, a lot of the stuff that we really want in America, and like MAGA, bring America back, America first. That's all the Russians are doing. They're just, well, it happens to be Russia first, but that's what you do when you're Russian. So
I don't see a problem with a country wanting to put their people first.
Exactly.
So of course I expect Russia to be Russia first, and of course I expect Ukraine to be Ukraine first, and you would hope England would be England first, but they're not.
Exactly.
Migrant first,
Right.
I can understand that. It doesn't make you a bad person to feel like that either. It doesn't make you to be like that either. The one thing about this country that has really, like in the United States, that has changed, it has been this putting everybody else ahead. I mean, why is the left so adamant about keeping all of these misdirected, abused, wasted, fraudulent programs in effect? Why? I read something today that there was a $2 trillion with a T in 2004, $2 trillion trade deficit.
Right, exactly.
$1 trillion. So let's just say, for argument's sake, 1 trillion of that was waste, fraud, and abuse, and another trillion is the actual trade deficit. That's $2 trillion out of your pocket, out of my pocket, out of the American people's pocket, going to support and take care of other countries while Americans are struggling to pay their bills and to make ends meet and to do all these things. And the left in this country is adamant about keeping that waste, fraud, and abuse, all of the junctions that these liberal judges are throwing up against this administration.
Right.
On the tariffs, on and the catch thing now is they're entitled to due process. No shit. No.
Right. Exactly.
If you're here in this country illegally, you are not an American citizen. If you're not an American citizen, the Constitution of the United States does not cover you and protect you.
Exactly. No, I fully agree. And I mean, was it even the leftist in chief, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, I forget the exact numbers. I think he deported 19 million illegals.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot. They may not even been illegal, but I mean, we have now 30, 40, 50, 60 million. Nobody knows exactly. And we're giving everything to them. And whatever happened to America first? And these liberal judges, I mean, it's like in the Marxist or the Frankfurt School, all these people, when they came to California in the 50s, they all had this idea of and this came from Lenin, the march through the institutions.
Yes.
So that means you become a leftist little poli-sci student, and then you become a professor at a liberal arts college. And I remember those from the 80s when I was a college student here in St. Petersburg, Florida. And those guys were the most outspoken, and they were grooming people to go through that and now get into positions of politics, or particularly the judiciary, becoming judges. Remember the Ninth District Court and all that from a few years ago when they I mean, there's a lot of real liberal, hardcore leftist judges, and you see them in all kinds of positions, and they sort of work their way through the institutions. And if you look what brought down Rome, it was decadence, a lot of other things, military, whatever, but it was mostly the culture that brought them down. And they took, whenever they went somewhere, they took slaves. And then they became house slaves. And eventually, when the master died or whatever, they could graduate to position in the administrative structure of Rome. And then they took that over, and before they knew it, all of Rome was basically infiltrated by foreigners. And that's what Rome, I'm not saying that's simple as that, but it's a major, it's one major factor, maybe the biggest, some people say.
There were other factors involved too, like, for example, incredibly high taxation.
Yeah, that's another thing.
They had a military that was spread all around the world, much like ours.
Yes, 900 bases.
Undefended and unprotected borders.
Yes, it's like the goalie. I've seen Germany lose a championship in 2002 when I was there. I watched it, and the goalie was probably in midfield when he should have been in the goal. So that's unprotected borders. The goalie's not home. There's no one to guard us.
Exactly. There are so many parallels between the United States right now and Rome that you got to look. A republic, generally a republic only lasts about 250.
Then we'd be at the end of that, right? 250, about 260, something like that. No, actually, wait a minute. Bicentennial was 76, so that's 250 roughly, give or take. Yeah, 250 pretty much.
Close, yeah. But that's generally the lifespan of a republic, because
it could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. There's certain cycles, and maybe that's the lifetime.
I would hope not for the United States. But,
I hope not.
But and I'm going to tell you something. I am part of an organization. I'm in Texas right now, and
right, organization. My favorite state. Yes.
Yeah. I'm not a natural born Texan. I'm from New York. Believe it or not.
Okay.
Yeah. So I transplanted here about 10 years ago.
Good for you.
But yeah, praise the Lord for that. I'm the deputy county coordinator for an organization called the Texas Nationalist Movement. Now,
I love it.
I don't know if you've heard of them, or not, but so I am the deputy county coordinator for Maverick County, where I live, and it's a wonderful organization. It's a political action committee, basically, that we're looking to. We were looking for Texas to once again stand among the nations of the world as an independent nation, and we're doing that through the legislative process. This is not about taking up arms or anything like that.
No, I get it.
But this is, but it's going through the legislative process, and right now, internal polling, of people that have been polled in Texas, 60% of Texans, 60% of Texans are in support.
Nice.
Texas leaving the United States and standing alone. Now, if Texas did that, Texas, right off the bat, becomes the 8th largest economy in the world.
Holy cow. Wow. I didn't.
Yes.
Yeah, it is probably the most prosperous state. It used to be California, but I think Texas is definitely better now.
Now, you got to look at it. Texas has plenty of land, of land, ranch land.
Oh, I love Texas, yes.
Warm water seaports. You have all the oil fields. You have and Texas is not part of the national power grid as it is.
Oh, right, yeah, right. I heard that somewhere. Yeah.
And just recently, I think it was last week, Texas started to they passed a bill in the Texas House for Texas to have its own currency.
The Texas Bullion Depository, something like that. I think they're looking at that, gold standard, things like that.
Exactly. And now, even with cryptocurrencies, there's something out there called Texit Coin, which is it's strictly mined here in Texas.
Right.
It's for Texans, but it's worldwide, it's global, but but it's here in Texas, being mined here in Texas by Texans.
Right.
And
great.
I actually interviewed the creator or the founder of Texacoin a few weeks ago.
Wow. Okay.
Great guy. Super
fascinating.
Smart. And I actually purchased some Texacoin now, and I tell people, you really should think about it, because I'm just saying right now. Well, when I bought it, it was like 40 cents a coin.
Right.
And I kind of kicked myself that when Bitcoin came out, kind of looked at it with a suspicious eye. I was like,
that's what it does. Yeah.
And now you got one Bitcoin is $100,000.
I know. I missed that boat too, but
so I bought a bunch of the Texacoin.
Okay.
And, it was at 40 cents a coin. It was a small investment, but
yes,
I'm looking at it like, all right, so if it tanks, I lost a few bucks, but if this thing takes off,
it could. I'm pretty sure it will, for a number of reasons. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you never know. You never know. So I bought it at 40 cents a coin, and I think today it was like $1.03 a coin or something like that.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's 250% right there. So not bad. So can I buy it in Florida?
Yeah, you can buy it anywhere.
Oh, I can't. So I don't have to live in Texas to do that.
No. It's global, but it's mined.
Okay. Right. It's mined in Texas, but it's available to the world, basically.
Yeah, exactly. You go to Texacoin.org.
Texacoin.org. I think we have to look at that. That looks like they're looking it up. My kids here, so they're really good. my team.
Texacoin.org. There you go.
Cool. Now I look into that, and I mean, this speaks to something else. There's the Federalist Papers, and we look at these people like Hamilton and so forth, but there's also the Anti-Federalist Papers. There's also at the time of the Founding Fathers or shortly thereafter, they were looking at giving more power to the states rather than the federal government, and
which is where it should be.
I agree. That's even with Roe versus Wade, they didn't outlaw abortion; they just kicked it back to the states, and it shouldn't be a constant. Even if you that's I don't even care about that. The point is, it had to be kicked back to the states.
I agree.
And each state should do that, and there should be much more taken away from the federal government and given it to the states as a matter of principle.
My personal thought on that is that the affairs of Washington D.C. should not affect my life or your life directly.
Thank you, 100%.
That's where
absolute. Let's shake hands on that. That I'm totally in agreement with.
I don't. They should not be telling me how much water should be in my toilet.
There you go. And
stupid example, I know.
Yeah, but exactly. No, it's actually a great example because it shows the stupidity of their thinking, and it's a stupid example through their eyes. But the states, it should be, because it's taking the mentality of the people. The globalists want everything centralized and more. All of America, federal, all of the Western Hemisphere, all of the world state, the Soroses of this world and so forth, when I think everything should be more and more decentralized.
Agreed.
Down to your own currency. The state should be able to mine, but I mean to coin its own currency, and to mint its own currency, and it should be much more to the mentality of the people. I mean, just West and East Texas are already like a different thing, right? So, but I mean, okay, that's one state. Because Austin's very different from Houston and so forth. I don't know how Alex Jones managed to live in Austin, the most liberal city outside of Cali or New York. But it's states' rights are probably one of the antidotes. And I'm not a secessionist, but I mean, I could see. I think we're talking to somebody from Idaho who's like kind of doing the same thing for Idaho. Not a secessionist movement, but states' rights, kind of independence kind of thing.
Let me tell you this too, that this might blow you away a little bit. I don't know how much you're aware of this stuff, but did you know that right now there are 25 states that have secession movements working its way through the legislative process?
Oh, I didn't know. That's almost double what I thought it was. Okay. Yeah.
And
wow. That's half the states.
And just think about this. It's not just red states either. It's California.
Oh, really? Okay.
California has a movement called CalExit.
Good. Yeah.
Which, believe it or not, California is probably closer to leaving the union than Texas is.
There's a lot of conservatives in California, just not in the big cities.
Exactly. And then like Vermont. Vermont has a very big secession movement.
Nice.
So New Hampshire.
I love that. New Hampshire. Okay.
There are some counties in upstate New York.
Right.
that want to separate from New York State as a whole. I don't know if you want to count that.
I don't blame them.
So it's out there. There
Right.
are there's plenty of states that are
Yes.
this idea around. Of course, it was worse. Well, not worse, but it was more prevalent under Joe Biden's administration.
Okay.
With Donald Trump, and, there's a little bit more like,
Yeah, maybe we keep the union for a little while longer.
because he did take steps to secure the border and so on. I live,
Right.
I don't know if you know, but I live in Eagle Pass, which is
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty close. Yes. So are you feeling that? Are you
Oh, sure.
actually okay? So yeah.
I mean the military presence that's around here, you see it all over the place. Border
Yeah. Right.
There's, this is probably, I thought living in New York, you felt that oppressive, police presence.
Blue meanies. Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you honestly, here you have actively on patrols. You see constables, sheriffs, police, state police, border patrol, and you don't even, but you don't feel it.
No, exactly. It's in New York. It feels oppressive. I know what you're talking about. I've been there. Yeah.
I went to New York last year to see my sister for Thanksgiving and whatnot. And man, I'm going to tell you honestly, I was walking around New York, and she lived on Staten Island.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you, man, not a smile on anybody's face. Everybody looked so beaten down, haggard. Every street corner had a camera, an NYPD camera everywhere. Traffic lights, stop sign cameras, speed cameras.
Wow.
Even on residential streets, they had speed cameras.
Oh, wow.
And, when I came back to Texas, man, I got back to my house. I got out of my car. I got on the floor. I kissed the ground. I said, I am.
Absolutely. Exactly. No, I can definitely get that. Yeah.
Not wait.
Yeah.
And I talked to my friends and whatnot, and they're like, hey, aren't you ever going to come back to New York? No.
No. Why would I? Why would I do that to myself?
And I tell them because once you get the taste of what freedom really is,
yes,
you're not going to give it up.
Right.
I pay no state income tax.
Oh, okay? That we have in Florida too, but that's about where it ends.
Yeah. So we have no state income tax. I can openly carry my firearm.
You have open carry? Oh,
yeah.
Oh, really?
We also have the constitutional carry, open carry. And
you can conceal it. Okay, because in Arizona, I remember you couldn't conceal it. You had to display it.
No, you can carry open, concealed, however you want. Really, basically, people do. I mean, it's great. I love it.
Right. Yeah. Oh, now you're talking.
There's like no crime here because people carry.
That is nice. Yeah, and I mean, I prefer open carry because there's no ands, ifs, or buts. Everybody knows what
This is what's
going on. Yeah, I love that. That's great. We have constitutional. Just got that about a couple of years ago, but I mean, open carry is definitely a nice thing.
Constitutional carry is good, but it does have its limitations. Believe it or not.
Right.
You are better off getting your license to carry because then it's easier on the background checks.
Right.
You don't have to go through the whole process, when you go into the gun shop and make a purchase.
Right.
So it's just faster. That's really all it is.
Right. No, exactly. Yeah.
That's a lot of fun. Because what I wanted to ask you, we've been all over the place.
Right. Yeah.
One of the things that I really, really caught my attention was when I was going over your stuff was you talk about the matrix.
Yeah. A prison for your mind that you can't see, taste, or touch. And when I talk about emotional liberation, I have this little dog that's about 5 pounds, 6 pounds, a little Chihuahua kind of pit bull. She thinks she's 200 pounds. She'll attack dogs that size. But when she gets her little stuffed toy that she's had for 7 years now, she takes it and goes, and that poor thing, that's how most people are like tossed about like a little boat on the ocean of their inner ocean of emotion. Mm-hmm. And it has you, whatever has you, what runs you will destroy you. It's almost like you're in the death grip of your pathological inner critic. I studied psychology, although I don't have a PhD, so I can't practice, but I know enough about it. It's the pathological inner critic is a principle, the inner voice that tells you, you're not good enough, you never amount to nothing yet. That kind of nagging, perpetual inner voice, that voice used to tear me to shreds. Then 20 years later, when I learned a lot of stuff, it was like, smart, smooth move, dumbass. You know better, come on. And now it's like this inner voice is like, dude, you already had 2 beers. You really need a third one. Come on. It's not good for you. He doesn't yell at me. He doesn't like put me through the ringer. He's just said, nah, I'm your best buddy. Like, give me the keys. You don't drive. So that's like a form of emotional liberation. And the matrix is just kind of like, yes, part of it is metaphor, but part of it is also, you believe the same thing everybody else believes. You're looking at the same stuff. You really think that everything is a certain way when it may not be a certain way. And as long as people don't wake up from that, it's almost like that scene where he walks Neo and the woman in red. It says, see, these people are still so invested into the system, the sheeple. They're a slave to their own emotions, the impulses. They have no control over it. And most of it is unconscious. Then you take SSRIs or other tricyclicals or other pharmaceutical drugs, but you never achieve that emotional liberation, emotional liberty. Not just emotional freedom to be a dumbass, but emotional liberty to actually do something with your life. And as long as that thing, these things kind of have you, the matrix has you kind of thing. It's almost like that little like a demon inside that tells you bad things. If you break free from that, and most of that is unconscious. Mm-hmm. It's like an iceberg. See, an iceberg we see like 11% or 1/9. And if you've seen the National Geographic from 20, 30 years ago, see an iceberg and you see that thing's already the size of a cruise ship. But then you see like the rest of it, which is 89%. With emotions, you're probably aware of maybe 1 part in 1,000, 1 part in 10,000. Wow. Very little. And so what we do in emotional liberation, I take that iceberg of your emotional stuff that you feel, that it's there. Your negative feelings are basically accompanied by 60, 70, 90,000 thoughts you have every day, most of which are bad, most of which tell you you're no good. Mm-hmm. So I bring that up, and then you can, become conscious of a little more of what runs you, what has control over you. And then there's methods to release that on a visceral level, on a literal physical level, and it's gone. And whenever I do these techniques with these people, I said, okay, well, that felt like liberating. I said, well, okay, that's fine, but put it to the test. Try to bring that emotion back, that I'm no good, I'm useless. Just bring it back. Or some issue you had. Oh, that girl just really looked at me. Like limiting beliefs, for instance, or for instance, like intermediate beliefs. You see, one girl shuts you down, right?
Right.
Then you think, oh, that must mean I'm not attractive. All girls hate me. Tomorrow, like every girl in the world will reject me. Kind of like, it's not rational. But that's kind of how the mind works sometimes, just to an extent. Some more than some less. So we're looking at all that stuff, and we're just taking it, basically ripping it out by the root. I remember once when I lived in California in the 80s, I had these weeds in my garden. They were like maybe 5 feet tall. Okay. And I tried to pull one out. And I got this much of the root out, but it was still this thick. And then I realized, oh my God, the root is 4 feet deep. So then I watered the yard. And then I was able to turn the soil. And then I was able to pull the whole thing out. See, like most of these techniques, or emotional freedom technique, or meridian, whatever, that's all superficial. A lot of it is like, are you ready to let go of your problem? Okay, let go of your problem. Don't you feel so much better? And I'm like, no, that didn't do jack. Okay, that didn't do anything. It's like, this is about 3, 4, 5, 6 orders of magnitude deeper. You need to pull the whole something out, and then it's gone. Is it an event? No, it takes months, if not years, to do that. But we can probably collapse something that took me 40 years to figure out, probably collapse it to maybe 2 to 4 years. Then when you really pull this out, every time you have an emotional issue that really works, your real MF, basically you take a tour of your body, you really get conscious of your mind, body, mind. It sounds like woo-woo crap, but it's not. It's not New Age bullshit. It really works. And we have thousands of people that will swear an oath that it works, because I know it works. And I probably wouldn't be alive with all my PTSD. Every time I see a helicopter UH-16, well, like, boom, 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 because they fly by here from MacDill Air Force. Okay. And I'm like, that's just a helicopter. Okay. But I mean, in the beginning, 20 years ago, I was like going almost insane, because they have Hellfire missiles and all kinds of crap. No, it's just a helicopter, dude. And so all that stuff that drags me down, that held me down, that made me like a slave to my emotions. Or like, let's say you're pushing, that expression, somebody's pushing your buttons, right? So it's almost like you have this panel of like a chessboard with 64 buttons. So any girl that knows you and knows your weaknesses can push that button and gets an emotional rise out of you. Mm. When you do these kinds of emotional liberation techniques, for lack of a better word, then the girl pushes the same button. Instead of of a hand grenade going off. It's just a little light bulb that says, yeah, that issue's there. Okay. It says, oh, okay. Glad you noticed. The girl like, shit, that didn't work. Okay, let me push another button. Oh, yeah, I know you're not pushing button number 7D. Okay. Oh, let me try 4G. Damn, it's not working. I can't get a rise out of this guy. Or your boss, whoever, buddies, the system. When you go through that, and it takes some time, I can't tell you text works. You'll see some effects in a few days. But to really do the whole thing, you're probably looking at months, if not maybe a couple of years or more. But then when somebody pushes your buttons and they don't get that rise out of you, you say, yeah, you say it like it's a bad thing. Okay, so what's else new? Let me try another button. And you realize they're powerless. They can't get a rise out of you. You're no longer a slave to your emotion. That's a form of liberation. That's a form of freedom. That's a form of liberty. And you're no longer, you're sort of, it's not like one button, you take the red pill and you're out of the matrix, right? It's more of a process that takes time, and it's multifaceted. And those inner dialogues, those inner issues are kind of tricky. It takes a long time to get rid of all that stuff. It could take years, it could take decades, but you can collapse that time frame. And once you have that, does it mean you don't get angry or sad? No, but it means, and I'm pretty, I'm a hothead. I'm like, you want to fight? Okay, let's fight. And my team's like, no, we don't want to fight. We just want to shut up. Everything's good. But, compared to where I used to be with all that stuff, I mean, I got myself into so many fights, including gunfights. No, I don't do that anymore. So people that go through this find like they're a lot more laid back. They're a lot more easy. They can handle. Sometimes it's like I'm in the middle of a negotiation, getting real angry. And then I just say, excuse me, I just have to go somewhere for 5 minutes. I do this exercise. I come back and people say, oh my God, you're a different person. I'm like, what'd you do? None of your business. And then I'm like, I still feel the emotion, but I'm no longer a slave to it. Almost like a Zen Buddhist, kind of like you witness. I'm experiencing this. I was having that emotion, but it's no longer, I'm no longer in its thralls and its grip, right?
Well, that's interesting.
And that's a form of freedom, a pretty deep one. And then suddenly you realize it's so much easier to see through other people's BS when you do that, or women's manipulative tech, just any kind of narcissistic or psychopathic or any of that stuff. It's like they're trying to do that. That's what used to work. How the hell does it not work anymore in this guy? I can't manipulate him anymore. Women, for instance. And then so, it's time for you to leave. Oh my God, he's no longer a slave to me. None of this. I've lost him. So, like the Stoics, right? See you later, or not.
Interesting you use that example. It's time for you to leave. I recently came out of a very difficult divorce.
I feel for you, brother. I do. Yeah, I've been there, done that. Yeah,
it's okay though. It did take me a while to kind of get back on my feet again. I'm not going to get details of it, but the circumstance that surrounded that led to the divorce really wrecked me for a while. And, it came at a time where I had experienced significant loss. In a matter of a year and a half, I lost my dad.
I'm sorry.
6 months after that, my grandmother passed away.
Okay, yeah, I can relate. I'm sorry to hear that, man.
While I was up in New York, burying my grandmother, my wife at the time and I, we didn't have kids, but we had French bulldogs. They were our babies.
I know them, yeah.
My boy, he passed away while I was up in New York.
Oh man, I'm so sorry.
I came back, and then a few months after that, on my birthday, I caught my wife cheating on me.
Oh, shit. Yes. Yeah. Okay. I think we all can relate to this. Yeah.
And then a few months after that, my mother passed away.
Oh man.
So all of that hit me all at once. And
God, I'm so sorry.
Spiraled in. I started drinking. I started doing all kinds of stuff I hadn't done in years.
Yeah, no, I get it. I understand. I've done that, yeah.
Up to that point, it had been almost 26 years that I had a drink. I down that road, and then I tried to take my life. I took a whole bottle of pill. I took a whole bottle of relaxers with a bottle of Jack. Right.
Yeah, that can work, unfortunately.
But I still woke up, and I woke up the next day with a headache. That was about it.
That was it. Good. I'm glad that it turned out that way and not the other way.
Me too. Yeah. I mean,
either way. Yeah.
But it really did affect me, and it's been,
of course,
it's been 3 years now.
Okay.
divorce, and I've been on my own now, and
Right.
and I've been very, very relationship shy. Like I'm not sure where I want to go with this.
Right.
If I want to do this stuff. What made me think of that is my attitude toward changed quite a bit. For example,
yes.
Just to tie to it's time for you to leave.
Yeah.
A long way to get to it, but I'm getting it. I was having dinner with a woman one night, and she came to my house, and I love to cook. I'm an amateur chef. And
oh, cool. Nice. Yeah, that's great. That's a good skill to have. Yeah.
I love doing it. I made this beautiful pasta dish. It was fettuccine with sweet peas, prosciutto, and white wine.
I'm getting hungry.
Garlic bread that I made.
Right.
I made these caramel apple tarts with homemade vanilla ice cream, all that stuff.
I'm salivating.
Yeah, I'll send you pictures. So I made this great dinner, and this woman came over, and we're sitting there, and we're about to have dinner.
Right.
She looks down at my dogs. I still have 2 French bulldogs.
You still have 2, yeah, okay.
I have my baby girl.
Right, okay.
I have my big boy, my Chuck. She looked at them, and she goes, well, what about them? I'm like, what about them? She goes, aren't you going to put them outside? No. First of all, it's 110 degrees out. Why am I going to put them outside?
They're your buddies. I mean,
right.
They're your kids, whatever.
I don't eat where there are dogs.
Oh, God. Oh. Yeah, well, okay, then don't let the door.
Okay, after all that, you're telling me you're not going to, the dogs are in the house? Sure.
Right.
So, well, I got something else to tell you. I said, not only do the dogs eat what I cook for them, not only do they get that, but they also eat in my bed. She goes, oh, no.
Oh.
She goes, oh, no. I said, okay, fine. So now that we understand each other, you can.
Good for you, brother. That's what I like to hear. Yes, I mean not the story, but I mean the your way to deal with it.
I'm not going to do that. I'm not going
to. No, good for you. Good for you. This is exactly. You kept your power. Thank you for doing that.
It comes and goes.
Yes, that's a rough thing. And we're just in the middle of, can I say that? Okay, so my first executive officer, if you will, he just went through something like that. So we're using that knowledge and his experience, and since he has all the methods of dealing with it, it's probably made it about maybe half as painful, a quarter as painful, or something like that. I don't know the exact thing, and it's none of my business. But the thing is, we put all that in the program we call, they're still working on. It's almost done, but it's getting there. It's called D&D, Dumped and Divorced. And a lot of it deals with all of that and all the emotional stuff of it. And also how to get your power back, how to eventually get out of all that pain and all that stuff so you actually can open yourself up to a new relationship. Yeah. Or you're not so desperate that if a girl does that, well, don't let the door, girl. Yeah. Hit you on your fat ass on the way out.
Yeah.
So not that it wasn't necessarily fat, but it's just an expression. You seem to be doing okay, because if you're already at that point that you can actually, you're not desperate enough to do that. After all this, you want somebody, you want companionship. You went through all that, cooking and all that, and then this, right? And then, but you still have the wherewithal to tell it, nope, there's certain lines that can't be crossed. And if you don't like it, well, be on your way.
My dogs ate well that night.
But they did, and good for you. And that's exactly so. It sounds almost like I don't have to teach you anything. I don't think you're a manly man. I didn't have much to teach you. But the thing is,
oh no, there's a lot I need to learn, my friend. There's a lot I need to learn. Like I said, I do struggle with it. To be honest with you, like there are times.
Yeah, understandably so. Yeah.
I feel like I'm kind of like on this roller coaster, like sometimes.
Right. Yeah, it's like that. It's like an undulation kind of process, and there's better days and there's worse days.
Okay. Hey there, this is Bernard. Orlando just talked about me. Just to quickly jump in.
Yes, sir.
One thing I found, if you ever want to try out the stuff Orlando told you about, that roller coaster thing ended pretty much within a month or two with using that stuff he talked about.
After your separation was it's only like 8 months ago or something?
5 months ago now.
I'm sorry?
5 months ago.
Well, the actual separation was 5 months ago, but that it was kind of like, you saw where it was headed was probably 8 months ago.
Yeah, but the key thing I found that was different this time than what I had before when I didn't know all that stuff is that roller coaster stuff. We know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, exactly. We all know that.
One day you're doing well, the next day all the shit comes back up and you're struggling just as hard as the first day, right?
Yes.
That can be ended extremely quickly if you apply this shit. And I was actually surprised because I hadn't had it in the first 2 breakups I had in my life, but I had it in this one. And the difference is, I'm not saying I'm not suffering at all, right?
Yeah.
It's still there, but
Right.
the depth and the intensity of the suffering is significantly shorter.
Right. The troughs and the peaks kind of get lower. And so
Yeah.
forth.
I mean, the rest of our team here, especially two guys who live close to me, they've seen me go through this day by day, and there's not that much ups and downs anymore.
That's part of what it will do for you. And it really works pretty much. Does it work equally for everyone? No, but does it work for almost everyone? Yes, as long as you apply it. But I mean, these things, you can probably collapse the 3 or 4 years of grieving down to probably 6 to 12 months. They tell you, well, you need to work on your stuff before you jump in the next relationship, right? With another level of recovery. Yeah, that's great, but you're really probably going to relive the same problems you had in the last relationship and the next one and so forth. That's all that stuff is baked into the cake of what we do. And it is everyone here. What's your qualification badge for being here, being part of that team? Well, you had to go through that same thing yourself. You had to have your heart broken. It's part of the initiation process, right, into manhood.
Yes, sir.
And it's you're not a man if you hadn't had your heart broken at one point.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and this is not a good thing. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I'm saying
it's important though, because
it's important. Yeah.
It refines you. It makes you a better person, a better man.
It does, and stronger and more solid. It forces you to look at your values or virtues. By the virtue sounds like, oh, some church lady, right? No, virtue is VIR, is from Latin man. Okay, so it's a masculine quality. Maybe the ultimate to have virtues and values is a manly quality. It's not some new age virtue segment BS. It forces you to look at all that stuff, re-examine your life, and there's a way to do that by default or by design. Confronts you with every tiny little piece of your psyche and every little thing that you didn't look at before, your shadow, young would say. It can be a truly cathartic process to really go through this, but you have to go through it the right way. I mean, we all go through it eventually, but there's an illusion that time heals all the wounds, and they sort of fade into obscurity a little bit, but that doesn't mean they're still there, and they'll come up right when you least expect them and when you least want them.
Right, yes. I know what you're talking about with that, yeah.
And so
wild.
And it makes a stronger man, though. Yeah,
it does. I think it does. Well, for me at least, I feel like it's what it made me do. Reevaluate who I am.
Yes, precisely.
Re-examine myself and to see, I had been married for I'm 54 right now. So.
Oh, really? Oh, I thought you were 40. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to flatter your ass, but.
No.
Okay. Okay. Well, then we're not as far apart. Okay.
I got married when I was 22, 23.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's very young. Oh my God, you were married for. That's 30 something. Yeah.
30-something years of my life.
Right. That's twice as long as I've been married.
My first marriage was 20 years, and my second one was about 10.
Oh, this was 2. I'm sorry. I'm sort of. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I got that wrong. But okay. So that's a long time to be married. So you've been married for more than half of your life.
Exactly. So I really lost track of who I was because I put yourself into a relationship. You take on each other. You become each other.
Yeah. You become a we. It's like you have 2 units and suddenly you open this. Suddenly you think you have more real estate. But it's actually, like my wife always says, this is what I hate about so many couples. There's only a we. The guy, well, I can't, we will come over at 7 or whatever. It's always we. And there's no more. You're not dealing with Tom, and you're not dealing with Sheila, whatever.
Right? No, exactly. And again, I don't think there's anything wrong with having a close relationship with.
Oh no, that's not at all what I'm saying. No.
I didn't think so either. But
right.
To clarify for some of the people who don't think out there.
Right. Yeah.
You. There's nothing wrong with being in a close relationship, but you have to be who you are. You have to.
Yes, you can't lose yourself in that. That's what a lot of people do. And we all have, I think. And you lose at least a part of it, your sovereignty, for lack of a better expression. And there it is again. But that sovereignty thing,
all ties together.
It's like you're complete, enclosed, self-sufficient unit. Yeah, and you're not part of something of like a couple. You're no longer your own man, and that happens to a lot of guys.
In my previous relationship, I gave up friends.
Yes, because she didn't like him, maybe, or whatever.
Right, exactly. And then when I was alone. I didn't have anybody. I didn't have anybody I can call and say, hey, bro, right. What I'm dealing with. Talk me off the ledge. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we have a lot of the talking to the ledge. Half the team here has gone through some expression like some ordeal like that. By the way, literally, like literally off the ledge. I mean, okay, so I'm not getting into too much of it, but yeah, I understand. We all.
And now that I've rebuilt my friendships, that I can give over the years. And
Yes.
like I'm straight out. I tell anybody that I'm getting involved with or I'm talking to or whatever. I'm not giving up my friends. I'm not giving up anything like that again.
No, exactly. That's autonomy. That's self-sufficiency. That's sovereignty.
Right. I'm not asking you for your phone to look at your phone. You're not looking at mine.
No. Oh God. Yeah. I've been there too.
It's one of those things. Look, I'm trusting you. You're an adult. I'm trusting you to act like an adult and contain yourself like an adult. I expect the same treatment in return.
Yes. It's a mutual thing of respect, not just losing yourself in that or being co-opted there's so many ways people lose their power, their self-sufficiency or their sovereignty. Just like the European countries lose or even the states lose their power to the federal government. You lose and you become this big overarching thing, but you're no longer yourself. Like the states, the people, individually, your own man. And my wife always tells me that. She says, "Yep, that's what I hate about so many couples. That you can't get one or the other. You only can get them as a unit."
Yeah. And let me ask you this. I saw this thing on a social media post. It just crossed my mind as we were talking about this.
Right.
It was a quote. It said that men give up happiness for family.
Yes. Yeah.
Women give up family for happiness.
Oh, that's very interesting. That's clever and intelligent. And there's definitely something to it. I have to sort of think through this for a little bit. Probably going to take me longer than we can have out here, but
that's fine. It was something.
No,
it's a couple of days ago. I thought it was very interesting.
Very interesting. I have to really spend a little bit of time on meditating on that one, but I think that's exactly accurate. Yeah.
That's why it's wild. I thought about it, and I reposted it on thing, and some of the feedback and the comments that I got on it were like, "Well, that's not true in every circumstance," and that's
right. Yeah. No, that's actually true.
I had a really good friend of mine comment on it, posted on the Facebook page. I don't know. She may be watching right now. I don't know, but I just posted the picture of it, the screenshot of it, or the meme of it, whatever it is.
Right.
And all I wrote in the comment was "change my mind." She had commented on it, and I was like, "Well, your argument still hasn't changed my mind."
It doesn't. Okay.
But she took it exactly the way I meant it. She knows me from many years. I want to say from probably 96, 97, somewhere around there. So I've known her for many years, and she's
right.
She's a retired cop in New York. She's an amazing family, and she's a good friend. So,
right.
So if you're listening and you're watching, hi.
Cool. Very interesting stuff. I like that. It
just struck me. Yeah, men give up happiness for family and for happiness, and that kind of
I think it's true. Yeah,
it goes along with what you hear today. I mean, today relationships. I call it a disposable society because
yes, it is. A
lot of women that you talk to are all well. What are you bringing to the table? Well, hello. What are you bringing to the table?
Right. Well, it's always transactional to a point, and it's not all there is to it, but it's a part that you can't deny or negate.
A buddy of mine started dating someone, and she was like, "Well, before you go anywhere or do anything," she goes, "I want to know how much you have in your bank account." Why? It's none of your business. He's like, it's none of your business because it's not yours.
Exactly. That's right.
Yours.
Yeah. And exactly. And that's sort of, you need to keep a certain part. My wife says, "I don't want to know these things. I know you do whatever you want. I'm never going to get involved in this. You have to have yours, I have mine, and there's a common part. There's us, there's a you and a me." And yeah, she doesn't want to look those things. She says, "Okay, well, if you want to show me, fine, I don't care." But she's not demanding like some of the other women I was with over the years, and or always checking on the phone or checking your email or, "Oh my God, you have porn on your computer," whatever. Yeah. Okay. So, but I mean, it's a principle. It's not whether you have it or not. It's whether it's none of your business. But that's part of boundaries. I mean, we all have boundaries, but a lot of times we leave the lock in the key, or we leave the door unlocked, or whatever. And it works both ways. You can't control anyone but yourself. You have to be in control of yourself, but you can't. That's none of your business, and neither is it anyone else's to go into yours. A lot of people have doors with a handle on the outside and a lock on the outside. And then they're wondering that they get burgled. These boundaries are extremely important. And a lot of guys, when I tell them about boundaries, that sounds like an AA thing or like some kind of like drug therapy thing, like rehab. No, healthy boundaries. It's not a woo-woo thing. It's not some kind of new age BS. You have to have boundaries. You control this much and nobody else. It's none of their business. Unfortunately, a lot of people, this is so blurry with most people. They don't understand And there's nothing selfish or secretive or evil or subterfuge. It's just what you do. You have to have your own autonomy, your own sovereignty. And you can't let anyone violate that. No one, not the government, not your girlfriend, not your wife, no one. Not your boss, no one. It's none of their goddamn, pardon my French, business. So,
one other question for you, and I saw this in some of the notes that I had for you. You use a term called spiritually castrated. Can you tell us what exactly that means, and what does it look like? You know, I mean,
I wouldn't necessarily mean spiritual in super spiritual, like JP. There's a spiritual dimension to your person, your liberty, your everything. And if you give your power away, you could even if you're waiting for a panacea or like the Redeemer or the second coming of Christ or the second coming of Trump or whatever it is, you constantly you're putting all that on somebody else who may or may not be able to fulfill it. As a matter of fact, nobody can fill those things for you. Also, men are complicit in their own demasculation, emasculation. It's on so many levels. There's physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. If you don't, you need to even, I think, have limits even with the divine. I mean, the divine knows it all, does all, but you still need to have a good relationship with it. And if you allow anything, anyone, or any doctrine, or anybody else's idea about what God is, or what women are, whatever it is, to invade that inner space of you, then you're really losing a form of sovereignty, you're losing autonomy, you're losing self-sufficiency, you're losing really your way. And most people really castrate themselves, and I mean it more figuratively than literally, but I don't really mean it literally, but it's all figuratively, but it's if we allow anyone to do that, even the divine or your idea, none of us really truly know God. I mean, we have ideas about it. There's certain books and scriptures that tell us what God is, but do we actually know? I remember when I did a lot of things where I kind of talked to God, quote unquote, in meditation. And one thing that was like, well, I bow down before you. And then the voice said, do not supplicate. Okay, who said that? Was that the devil? Okay, it was God. It sounded like more like God. And I was like, I said, no, I never asked anyone to be on your knees. I asked you to hold your head up high, become a living example of the divine, of the spiritual. As you're human, you're mortal, you're full of faults, of sin, whatever. But you still hold your head up and you stand for something or you'll fall for anything. You need to hold your head up if you, like the old song from the 80s or whatever, hold your head up. Hold your head up. Don't supplicate. Don't bow down. I'm not your boss. I'm not trying to keep you down. I'm your friend. Was that really God talking to me? Maybe it was my subconscious mind. I don't care who it was. I don't think it was the devil. So pretty sure I'm on the devil. I didn't feel like the devil. There's no small.
Makes sense to you though.
It was like, don't make yourself small. And the idea was like, okay, maybe it's a bit of a New Age idea, maybe an Eastern philosophy, but it's more the divine God is so unspeakably and so limitless, but it has to sort of experience itself through the billions and trillions and quadrillions of tiny little sparks of consciousness. And those are all created in the image of God. Those are all worthy and worth something. And if you completely, mea culpa, like in the ashes on my head and so forth, and dress yourself in sackcloth to not make the gods jealous, like in Greek mythology.
The old friars walking around whipping themselves.
Yeah, that whipping yourself with that and chastising yourself.
Self-flagellation. That's what it is.
Self-flagellation. That's it. And that's not really healthy. And every time I've done, whether it was like shamanic vision quests or ayahuasca in the Amazon 30, 40 years ago before it became fashionable or whatever. Every time I got this thing, no, don't supplicate. It's you are created in the image of God. It doesn't mean you're God. It doesn't mean you have any of these powers or any of the wisdom. But you were created to prove yourself worthy of being created, having been created. Don't cut yourself down. Like, for instance, one of the difference between Western, particularly the American version of Protestant Christianity, Adam and Eve sinned, the apple thing, whatever. And so now the sins of the father. And so if you look at Eastern Orthodox, so we inherit it. So we're doomed to hell unless we get baptized, until we redeem ourselves and all that. Mm-hmm. And that's like a self-formed diminishment. Whereas if you look at Russian Orthodoxy, you're still a sinner, but you're not born into sin. You didn't inherit the culpability from your father, from Adam and Eve, or even your dad. In Germany, you see this a lot. Well, the sins of the grandfather, he was in the Wehrmacht. He was a soldier and fought for Hitler. No, you didn't do that. Are we sinners? Are we like culpable in this life? Absolutely. But it's only what you did in this life. And that's a massive difference. It's almost one of the defining qualities of Eastern Orthodoxy versus Western Protestantism, that you come to this earth as a blank slate. Whatever you do then, that's your business, and you'll have to answer for it eventually. In this lifetime or in the afterlife, you'll have to answer it. So there's no free out of jail card, but it's not Adam and Eve's thing. It's not your grandfather who was in the SS that makes you a Nazi today, or whatever you want to apply this to.
It kind of goes along with this. It's like you're born a sinner, but you're not born sinning.
Exactly, and nature can't sin.
Exactly. It's like
a person can sin.
A duck is born a swimmer, but he's not born swimming.
Right. Exactly.
So there is a time though where when you become conscious of right and wrong,
right,
and you make that conscious decision to do wrong, that's when your sin.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Then this is like, if you look at the elites, I mean, this is maybe I'm digressing a little bit, but this is something people say, how do you explain that good people eventually turn to evil? And I'm like, okay, have you ever had kind of like iffy or slightly kind of questionable little tendencies or proclivities? Okay, well, maybe you did that. Okay, then you stop, whether it's alcohol or whatever it's, and you stop. Whereas some people never say no to themselves. And it's just, you don't sign one time you sell your soul and blood to the devil in one fell swoop. It's more like the micro decisions we make every day for years and years and years, and they add up. And if you never say no, just one more sin, one more little sin, it becomes a slippery slope that gets increasingly steeper and more slippery until you just go all the way. And then like people that like young women, suddenly, maybe she's only 17, I'm 43. No, you don't do that. You don't go there. Yeah. At least not in the United States. Maybe other countries have different laws, but in the U.S. you can't do that. Okay, otherwise you go to jail for 10 years. You're not going to have a good time in prison either.
What do they say? 15 will get you.
Yeah, I mean, it's like jailbait thing. But I mean, it's like, where do you stop? Where do you stop? And it's like one more sin, one more little step, one more whatever, And if you don't stop yourself, and a lot of people don't stop themselves, and they just go farther and farther down that slippery slope.
Yeah.
And they may not be bad people, quote unquote, whatever that means, but they just don't know when to stop. And it's like you can test it out to a certain point. You can maybe do a little bit of sinful, maybe you can do a little bit of this, but then you need to know where the limit is. And if you don't, and if you just keep pushing that boundary out ever so, just another 5%, another 1%, eventually there's no more stopping. And that's when you're on your way to somewhere, probably not pleasant. So learn how to stop yourself and understand that, you can you have a certain leeway, but only so much. And you need to know when to stop. And if you can never do that, I think that's where a lot of people become weak when if you don't trust yourself to stop, then don't have that drink. Don't do that thing. Don't do whatever it is. Just stop right here where it's still safe and level. I think that's sort of one way to deal with that.
That makes a lot of sense, and that's very interesting, actually. And something I got to contemplate a little bit.
What do we know? We look at scriptures, we look at this and that, what other people have thought. But there's also something, I don't want to call it gnosis because then that's a specific thing, but it's like a certain sense of knowing that comes directly from God. And again, you could be wrong, and you really need to be careful because you don't channel stuff, for instance. You can be really wrong. Oh, I got this message from the Pleiades. I'm not so sure. Well, maybe it's just your own mind giving you BS. But
the Bible says to try the spirits, whether they're of God or not. So
there you go. And then they tell you. I mean, spirits lie. That's why divination is considered so dangerous. And spirits lie, even good ones. I mean, look at Joan of Arc, right? She made up all these saints, Catherine of whatever the hell. These never existed. And then they said, everything is good until she found herself on being burned alive at the stake. If you study the work of John Dee, back to Elizabeth I, back in the,
familiar.
Still talking to angels. Well, are you sure those were angels, really? Some were like demons to me, but okay.
Sometimes that's not grandma standing at the foot of the bed talking to you.
Or that, yeah. I mean, I do a lot of paranormal research, but I would never go into like an old asylum or something like that. Or don't go looking for trouble. Don't do that.
You're into paranormal research? Yeah.
Yeah, I find it very interesting, but I'm approaching it with extreme caution. I'm mostly just observing. I like to hear other people's stories. I listen to things on YouTube, sometimes to fall asleep, stories of in the deep woods, how they say, whatever they see, Bigfoot or Dogman, or some interesting. Do these things real? Are they fake? Are UFOs real, fake? Yes, I think they're both at the same time. This is why you see Bigfoot. I think people really see Bigfoot, but is it actually blood? Yes, I think when it's in this dimension, it may be flesh and blood creature, but then the footprints end, right? And suddenly
they're gone.
So it's like a poltergeist phenomenon. It's like it shows up and then it's gone. And I think some of these things are more like, yeah, are they real? Are they imaginary? No, they're all of the above and then some, but don't take it like this one guy was talking. He's talking to the Greys, right? The aliens. And they said, yeah, we want you to believe in us, but not too much. And I was like, I like that. That's cool. That's good. I've seen those on ayahuasca, by the way. I saw those when I talked to the shaman. They're little Greys, and I saw those 30 some years ago in Colombia, and I asked the shaman, I said, so what are those, extraterrestrials? He said, no. So what are the demons? I said, they're all things to all people. We work with them. They can heal, but they can also kill. So use with caution. It's like a tiger could be a nice pet until it isn't, like Siegfried and Roy, right? Either you learn, if you want to deal with them, you have to learn how to control them. Otherwise, you'll be their biatch. And so that seems to be all these things. They're interesting, they're fascinating, they're tempting sometimes, but use with caution.
Yeah.
It's like a zoo animal. Look at them from a distance.
I tell you, I got a funny one for you. I got a couple actually I could tell you, but the more recent one is this. There's I live near a cemetery, so my neighbors are really nice and quiet for the most part.
That's fun, right?
But I got one of those SLS cameras, the ones that if I would have thought of this, I would have loaded the video up and I could show it to you.
Right. Oh, cool. Yeah.
But it takes energy.
Right.
It puts it into like a little stick figure form.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Wow. Okay.
Very interesting.
That sounds very interesting. Yeah.
I was playing with the camera one day, and I was on my way back from I forgot where I was coming from, but I pulled over by the cemetery, and
okay.
I was like, yeah, let me just take a look. Let's see.
Right. Yeah.
So I put it up, and I'm looking through the lens, and anyway, it's picking up other things. It's picking like a tree, and it's putting like little like figures on the trees and all that stuff.
Right.
I scanned past this one headstone.
Okay.
And there was nothing else around it. It was just a headstone.
Right.
No trees, no shrubs, nothing.
Right.
When I passed by it the first time, it registered something standing there.
Okay.
And I went back to it again. I was recording as I was doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it automatically records. So I'm doing that, and I go back to it, and sure enough, there it is. It's standing there, and it's just standing in front of the headstone.
Wow. Okay.
But it was very small. It was very small.
Right.
The cemetery was open, so I got out of the car and I walked into where that was. Right. And it was the headstone for a child. I think that on the SLS camera, the image was about the height and the size of a child.
Okay. Wow.
And so that kind of freaked me out. The other story is this. In the first house I ever purchased with my wife, my first wife, we had purchased a house from an estate. And the previous owner was the original owner of the house. They had both passed away. Father passed away in the hospital. The mom passed away in the house.
Oh, okay. Right.
And, we knew that going into it. They told us. They disclosed it.
Right. Yeah, they need to disclose it in certain states, yeah.
And it wasn't like a violent thing. She was elderly. She passed away.
Right. Yeah. Natural causes, yeah.
So my wife and I were up in the master bedroom. We were putting the bed together, and we started making the bed. So I was on one side, she was on the other, and there was nobody else in the house. The kids were out; they were at school, and it was just us. We were just cleaning up. We fluffed the sheet up like that.
Right. Yeah.
And when it came down, as clear as you and I are talking right now, a woman's voice said, "Who is that?"
Oh, you both heard that.
We both heard it because when the sheet came down, we were both staring at each other. We were like, "Did you hear something?" What you heard? I heard a lady's voice.
Right.
What did it say? I said it asked a question. What question? Who is that? That's what I heard too.
Wow. Okay. Well, that kind of lends a little more credence to it, right?
I got goosebumps. So
yeah, me too. Yeah.
But it continued on, and then a few days later, I was down in the kitchen and I was like washing dishes, putting things away.
Right.
The way the kitchen was, it was kind of like a U-shaped kitchen.
Right.
And behind the sink where I was standing was where the stove was and all that stuff.
Right.
I'm washing the dishes, all of a sudden I heard like that, like a,
Ooh, okay.
and I turn around and the glass on the front of the stove.
Ooh, I hate when that happens.
Completely shattered. I'm like, well, how did that happen?
Wow, right.
It wasn't on, nothing like that. And so I was like, oh, whatever. So I cleaned it up and I ordered a new glass and I put it in.
Right.
A couple of days later, I'm in the kitchen again. All of a sudden, crack, it happens again.
The same. Well, that's okay.
Same exact thing.
Things that make you go,
And then in the basement, we had like it was almost like an apartment. Like
right.
All I could do really was put meters on it, and it could be like a legal apartment.
Oh, okay.
So, but we used it for the playroom for the kids, and I had a home gym and all that stuff. Little office.
Yeah.
But in one corner of the house, there was a closet, and that closet had the main drain for the entire house inside there.
Right. Yeah.
Anytime I went near that thing, like all the hair in the back of my neck would stand up.
Okay. Yeah. Been there, done that. Yeah.
Now I remember when I went to school, and a Bible school, and I read your Bible. It always seems like demonic entities like to hang out by warm, wet places. I don't know if that reminds
warm, wet, and unclean.
Unclean, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I was like, gee, I wonder, that's kind of freaky. So this is what I did. All right. And if I had my Bible here, I'd put my hand on my Bible to show you that I'm telling you.
Yeah, no, I believe it. Unlike Kamala Harris, who put her purse on their Bible and their hand on the purse.
yeah. Tell you who our God is. So
it would have burned, probably caught fire.
Probably, yeah. So I took a bucket.
Right.
Like a regular bucket.
Right.
I took a Bible and I opened it up. Didn't matter where. I just opened it up.
Right.
I put it on top of that bucket in front of that door.
Okay.
All right. I went to bed.
Okay.
Now, my kids, they weren't old enough to kind of wander by themselves. They wouldn't go down there by themselves. They were in bed sleeping.
Right.
I got up long before they did, and it was like, I think I put it there, it was like around midnight. I went down there at like 5:30, 6 in the morning.
Right.
The bucket was thrown on the other side of the room.
Okay. Didn't like the Bible, did it?
On the other side of the room. So
I
was like, okay, this is creepy, man. This is like really
that is creepy. Yeah, that is goosebumps again. Yeah.
I told my wife and the kids. I said that weekend. I said, I want to do something. I don't want you guys to do it. So can you just like go to your sister's for the weekend?
Right. Yeah.
So they left, wondering what the heck I was going to do.
Right.
But I went down to the basement and I had a video camera that had night vision.
Okay. Right.
I went to the furthest point with my back against the wall.
Right.
And I was facing that closet with the night vision on, and I sat there all night. I shut the power off in the house. And
wow. Okay.
I had all these battery packs, and I'm just all night with the camera on that thing. I was expecting like books to fly and all that stuff.
Right.
But I'll tell you what did happen. None of that happened. But what did happen was somewhere around 3:00 in the morning, the door.
3:00 to mock the Trinity, right? So.
At 3:00, the door to that closet shook.
Okay, that's not scary.
But you could see it. It shook.
Wow, you could actually see it shook that violently.
It shook.
All right,
but it didn't open.
Okay, someone was trying to get out.
So I said, "I'm done."
Yeah.
Like, all right.
Absolutely, yes.
I wipe my hands of this. You enjoy that little corner you got there.
Exactly. You stay there. I'm on my way. Right.
Do what you got to do down here.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I'm fascinated by that stuff. So when you said,
it is fascinating. It's probably a little dangerous, but I think you sort of explore the outer limits of what I would probably do too, but that's about where I would leave it. And I think you did too.
So. I'm not going to sit there with the thing. Is there anybody here that would like to talk to me?
Yeah, that's the EVP or whatever that stuff. Yeah, I'm good to take other people's word for it. I don't need to necessarily verify that myself.
Because if I hear grandma come through, I'm running.
Yeah, exactly. Or you don't know what's coming through, and that's the problem with these. I don't know whether Ouija board seems to be more dangerous serious in most of these things, but I mean, I do believe in, I mean, if you go to Ireland, for instance, people, it's totally accepted that there's faith folk. Well, we don't believe in it, but we're really scared of them. Same with, you know, if you go to Islam, the world of Islam, they have the jinn and those things, I mean, little fairies, they're not Tinkerbell. Those things can be really scary and really evil. And are they demons? They're probably not demons in the technical sense as in fallen angels. They can be downright demonic and every bit as cruel and dangerous and vicious and vile. There's limits. I mean, I do it mostly vicariously through other people's research at this point, because I lived in the haunted house in Miami. It was next to a kapok tree, which is also known as a saber to the Santeria Cuban culture, which is also part of the Maya culture, incidentally, same pantheon. Man, the crap that I saw in that house, I mean, and it wasn't just me. Everyone else saw it too, smelled it too, smelly something or other. I'm done. I wasn't a believer before, but now I'm not sure am I a believer of anything, but I'm like, there's something to it. And Ghostbusters is a great movie, but, you know.
Let them do it.
Don't go looking for trouble.
And actually, what I wanted to say too about, you talk about the Greys and the aliens and all this. I've only had one experience where I think I saw a UFO. I can't say for sure. I was on a flight. I was on my way back from New York.
An airplane. Okay.
Yeah, and I was on my way back from New York.
Right.
I don't know. I was just looking out the window and just kind of off in the distance. I just saw something. It just right past the plane.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And I thought to myself, well, that was kind of close. You know, commercial flight.
Yeah, okay, like a Foo Fighter in the World War II thing.
Yeah, it was moving awfully fast, but it was solid, though. It was like a dark, like almost a grayish black color.
Okay, wow,
right by, and I was like, well, I don't think, you know, it's not a commercial flight because it's awfully close, moving really, really fast. Could it have been a military plane? I don't think so.
I don't think they would do that. I don't know.
Close either, but that's probably the only time I ever looked. Maybe had this conversation with a couple of other people too, and
maybe it's because we're talking about this stuff. Who knows? I mean, maybe the spirits of Gremlins think, you know, that Gremlin. What is that? That movie from the '80s, Twilight Zone, the movie. That Gremlins, like John Lithgow, I think it is, and the thing is like hacking away at the jet engine, and like as long as not that, I'm okay. But.
Right. I think we should probably take that as the cue to shut up and move.
All right. Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. Probably. But it's fascinating talking to you. I could do this all day and all night. But
we definitely should talk outside the show too. I would really like that. That'd be a lot.
Okay. Great. Yeah. No. It's very, very good host. You're very fascinating to talk to. I think we're kind of like on a same page, I guess, or whatever, same path. And it's so good to talk to people who actually aren't woke or some of that nonsense, and very good to talk to you, sir. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Our evening with Orlando Owen. Make sure you head over to his website, which is feeldifferent.com.
And OrlandoOwen.com. You can also go to that.
OrlandoOwen.com. Okay, great.
And on YouTube, you find a very, very small fledgling channel. It's Orlando Owen Coaching. So, but that's a very small channel. There's a few videos, some of them politically and so forth, inspired, but that's essentially what it is.
You guys can send that over to me or an email or something, so I can make sure I add it to the. Okay,
great. The show notes, yeah, excellent.
Do that. Yeah. So again, Orlando, thank you so much, man. I really
likewise, very much enjoyed that. Absolutely cool to talk to you, Joe. Like I said, I could talk to you all day and all night, but. My wife always says, "Can we go back to Fredericksburg or somewhere in Texas? Texas is nice. I like Texas." I said, define Texas. It's about half. It's twice as big as any European country. It's huge. It's a country on itself. Well, but she wants to go back, so maybe we'll find a way.
You let me know, and we'll get together.
Absolutely, that would be great. Really good to talk to you, brother. Really appreciate that, and.
I signed up on your website, by the way. I signed up on your feeldifferent.com.
Oh, cool. Okay, good. Thank you very much. Okay. Yeah, and I have to look at your stuff. So I appreciate that. That was very fun. Yeah, thank you very much. Hope your listeners got a little bit out of it, something. And I know they get out of you all the time. So let's see, who's that crazy guy? Well, there it is. Thanks a lot, Joe.
They deal with me on a daily basis.
Then they have a good channel and a good person, a good man to listen to. And I'm sure you have a lot of value to give to these guys, and they should be listened to. So they'll learn something.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, brother. Take care.